miss your blue skies. I miss your clear blue skies and drinking water streams. I miss your mountains. I miss your sunrise and your watercolor scenes. Ooh, Alaska, I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
For 6 years, Jay Hammond and his crew have journeyed across Alaska. Down the trail, they met over 68 unique Alaskans doing unusual, uplifting, often courageous things in a land they trade for no other. As a pilot, commercial fisherman, writer, homesteader, and former governor, Jay's life mirrors the character and spirit of those Alaskans who have carved out a life to their own design. Alaskam is proud to have sponsored the Jay Hammond's Alaska series, an enduring tribute to the grandeur of Alaska's land and the warmth of its people. Join us for a celebration of the wonderful people who call Alaska home.
Alaska, I'm coming home.
How about that?
Alaska.
You will probably recall about a man who was drowned by going through a hole in the ice with his dogs. This potlatch song, it is a supplication to the spirit, a kind of emotional purge, the traditional and classical signal for open weeping and wailing.
My father recorded the native music in the villages when we lived there. That music became a big part of me. It's music that I love and have listened to ever since.
Alaskan composer Craig Corey carries music from the past into the present. Craig is inspired by the rare recorded sounds of native music from the Iliamna area, which he now incorporates into his contemporary compositions.
That's a rather laborious process. It's very difficult to write down, but the more you listen to it, the more you appreciate how complicated it is.
It's a legacy left by his father, John Corey, whose plane disappeared in Cook Inlet when Craig was only 5.
When my father died, we moved and spent a year in Switzerland, where my mother was from, and that's when I first started taking piano lessons. And at that point, then, I started getting some actual training in music.
Craig has since gone on to become an accomplished composer, pianist, and music teacher at the University of Alaska. But my first memories of Craig stem from when, as a 4-year-old boy, he and his family were our nearest neighbors, living some several miles away. Craig, it seems as though I've known you since a long time ago when we first met you and your folks at Lake Iliamna.
That would have been in 1952. That was when we moved to Alaska, and I think we met you shortly thereafter.
I know your music is intricately entwined with the sounds of native background music that you heard when you were a kid. Tell me a little bit about that.
I think my father had a lot of influence on me there. He didn't teach me to play an instrument, but he was very fond of music. He did play himself. He played one of those old pump organs, and he sang, and he had quite a good voice, although he did not read music. He played by ear and he sang. And he listened a lot, and I think my main love of music is just from listening to the music that my father would play. He got a do-it-yourself hi-fi kit and exposed us to classical music at a very early age.
This legacy of loving music is carried on by the rest of Craig's family.
Camille, my oldest daughter, plays the violin and is doing quite well. She is right now the assistant concert mistress in the Anchorage Youth Symphony.
You have a decrescendo here? Let's see if we can get it bigger.
My wife, Gail, teaches choir. She also now plays the piano and does some teaching. My younger daughter, Willow, plays the cello. We envision at some point being able to play trios. And now let's hear the melody I love listening. I love composing. And I like teaching music very much. Because it is a third above the root. Most of my teaching is at the university where I have piano classes and also theory classes. Call. Anyone want to guess?
You were playing a little bit faster, right? So
Yeah, a little bit, but you know, that's...
Here, Craig collaborates with Dr. Timothy Smith, head of the music department of the university, as they strive to blend the unique sounds of his father's recorded Aboriginal music into an original composition.
Yeah, I know, that's the trickiest place, right in there. That's the part that I can't play.
what about, I didn't play the opening either.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's go back to the opening.
How do you think your father would feel if he knew of your interest in the work that he initiated and that you've continued?
I think he'd be very pleased. He might be surprised that I turned out to be a musician, but I think he'd be very pleased to know that I've gone as far as I have working with native music. If it hadn't been for him, I probably wouldn't be doing this now.
We live on the most interesting possible planet with its weather, breakup of the rivers in the spring, all of the myriad of plants and animals, always changing, always responding, always renewing themselves. Look at them with your eyes, and then don't move your head or eyes, and lift the binoculars up so you can see them.
You see the big bird with the long, long legs? You're going to enjoy those cranes. So how many kids did you take out there with binoculars?
While many await the arrival of spring to rejoice in nature's renewal, one couple exalts in it all year long. Gail and Larry Mayo make their home on a 100-acre farm near the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. Larry, as a glaciologist, and Gail, with a degree in biology, reflect their love of nature, both while at work and at home.
The sounds and sights and smells of nature and wildlands are very much nicer to us than the sounds, sights, and smells of the city.
That all sums up why we got into farming, too, because that ties us, again, more closely to nature.
It makes life very interesting to tune yourself to what goes on in nature.
A good farmer's a good observer of what's going on out there around him. The weather, the ground, the plants. Let's go, dogs.
While Larry's job with the U.S. Geological Survey keeps him at the office much of the time, Gail, the full-time farmer in the family, spends hers tending the flock.
Well, those sheep are ready to eat this morning.
Why are they all wearing outer garb?
Well, that's to keep their fleece clean.
Not standards of decency so much as just to
No.
protect the wool?
It's to protect the wool, and I'm interested in selling their fleeces to hand spinners, and they like it to be really clean.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never seen clothed sheep before. They're eager to get out?
Yeah, don't stand in their way.
Okay, all right. Okay, girls.
Come on, girls. Out you go.
The Mayo flock numbers around 25 ewes, an equal number of new lambs, and one weary but dedicated old ram. Why sheep? That doesn't seem like the normal Fairbanks farmer commodity.
I was interested in the fleece, and I saw that this was an animal that I could handle. No, I wasn't too interested in a 1,000-pound cow to raise.
They don't raise much fleece, do they?
Sheep made a lot of sense.
While Gail provides wool to others, she keeps some for herself to spin and weave.
It was something that I had always wanted to do. I always enjoyed sewing and making things out of fabric. It's really interesting to have control over fabric and design something from start to finish. To have something that I raised go into a finished garment. Nah, here they come.
These two are the guys.
These two.
Here you go. How often do you do this? Just once a day?
No, about 6 times a day, 5 or 6 times a day.
Oh, boy.
Good little
Now,
lady.
is he going to get a bunch of air and colicky, and I don't want to have to burp him, will I?
I've never had to burp one.
Never had to burp one yet, huh?
All right, now we'll dump them upside down in the bucket.
Dump them upside down in the bucket? How undignified.
How undignified. And then we'll just hang the bucket up here and see what we get for a weight. This one will stay in the bucket.
What do you got there? 23?
And what number is it?
This is number 22.
Okay.
Now.
They get out fast, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Gee, that wasn't traumatic.
I enjoy raising the lambs for the same reason I enjoy watching those birds down at Creamer's Field. It's a rite of spring.
The Mayos, deeply dedicated to wildlife conservation, contribute to organizations such as the Arctic Audubon Society and Friends of Creamer's, a group that supports nature education at Creamer's Refuge.
To have a piece of land serve as a wildlife park right in the city is pretty important for a lot of people.
It would be hard to find a Fairbanksan who doesn't hold some sort of value in that piece of land. Some people call the refuge Fairbanks' jewel.
Every spring, almost like clockwork, give or take a few days, Creamer's Field becomes a pit stop for thousands of migrating waterfowl, an event that draws almost as many spectators as it does birds. Gail takes this opportunity to share her knowledge with enthusiastic students.
On these signs, we've got all the birds that you're likely to see here today. Creamer's Field is pretty much a resting place for them. They probably only stay here 3 or 4 days.
Oh, Canada goose.
It's a fun way to volunteer your time to encourage nature appreciation. It's kind of neat to observe what they get out of it. You can kind of hear them saying to each other, wow, look at that. What do you have out there?
Sandhill cranes.
Oh, sandhill cranes. They're really neat to watch. Education of kids is probably the best way to approach changing our attitudes towards nature. Uh-oh, something exciting going on here.
Something about the geese flying in the spring that puts it all back in focus. It's all's right with the world when the geese are flying.
That's right.
Although they live only 5 miles from town, the Mayos have chosen a path of self-reliance, looking once again to nature and relying on her gifts, rather than choosing to pay for costly urban conveniences. That path has led them to a simple truth.
People need to learn to be as self-sufficient as they can in growing their own food, having their own animals, producing their own power, getting wood off their land for their own heat, and thereby just living a little bit more gently on this earth.
What do we got here, Larry?
Well, we have 8 solar panels on an automatic tracker to make electricity for the house.
Automatic. You mean it follows the sun around? Or
yes,
what?
it follows the sun much like a sunflower will point to the sun.
Okay.
Let me show you how this works when it moves to its morning position.
Okay.
The sun will do the equivalent of what I'm doing now. And then as the day goes, it automatically follows the sun and positions itself so it's pointing toward the sun. This produces a lot of power, and when it's working hard, it emits absolutely no exhaust, it makes no noise, And as far as we know, these solar panels will be working much like they are now 50 or 100 years from now. So it's a
You don't
permanent,
have to replace them.
it's a permanent investment. They don't wear out. Well, Jay, you live in the bush and have a diesel-powered electrical system.
Well, I've got a fairly efficient system. I've got a diesel generator. Cost me maybe $3,500 a year.
Well, $1,200 panels would save you between $500 and $1,000 of fuel per year. So in just a couple of years, they would pay for themselves, and after that, you would have that much power free every year.
That's it. Oh, boy. Sounds like it's worth doing.
A lot of people are doing it now.
Except during the dark months of winter, the sun powers their lights, water pump, refrigerator, and power tools.
I have one little thing more to show you.
One small $60 solar panel even serves to charge the battery in their tractor.
It runs the starter all summer just fine. You could put one of these on your plane.
Even though Fairbanks is not known for its consistent wind, an experimental wind charger atop the hay shed contributes to their home energy system. What else do you get from Mother Nature, Larry? To Gail and Larry, Mother Nature's bounty is everywhere. Just as they take energy from the sun, the clouds fill yet another essential need.
And then from our roof up there, we get rainwater and snowmelt for our domestic water supply.
Even an old Land Rover does not sit idle. It splits the firewood they harvest from their property to heat their home.
The Land Rover, we just
And at the same time, the old Rover is yet another source of energy.
And in the wintertime, when I'm running this to run our wood splitter, the alternator here is charging the batteries in the house.
As all the power enters the house to be stored in batteries, Larry keeps careful records and tracks their household energy consumption on a computer that also just happens to be sun-powered.
A lot of the advice you get about living using fewer resources turns out not to be good advice because it's so impractical that you use up your whole life just doing some impractical activity. So we're learning what works and what doesn't work, both in this climate and for our own lifestyle. There's a lot of good feeling that you have for yourself in being self-sufficient. You accomplish things that are tuned to the seasons and tuned to what nature's doing.
We've tried to look at our lives and see where we could soften our touch on the land, and I'm sure we have a long way to go.
You can live your life in such a way that you're simply a part of that continual renewal, and it's just fun to be part of that natural process.
However it's evolved in a way that's been satisfying to us. We've enjoyed living on this piece of earth.
Dear Linda, hi, how are you doing? I'm pretty good. Thank you so much for saving my little friends. Good morning, Jenny. I found them on August 2nd when I decided to take a look and see how the baby swallows were doing. I looked up and saw that their nest was all broken and the mother was gone. It turned out they had fallen to the ground. We took them in the house and warmed them up. I feed them 8 to 9 times a day. We tried chicken, and they went head over heels for it. I'm sending some chicken with them, and if possible, you should feed them when they get there. Once again, thanks for being so kind. Your friend, Dustin.
Dear Dustin, first let me assure you that Slurp, Burp, and Chirp all arrived just fine. I want you to know that I think you're a very special person. I know how much work went into taking care of your birds, and you did a good job. Good enough that all 3 were released to fly south. I'm making plans for a trip to Port Ellsworth. We have a bird to release and thought you would like to be part of it.
Sounds just like a watch. I think it'll be a lot better situation than wandering around in the dump up at Wasilla, so we think he's going to a lot better home down there.
True to the old adage that you sometimes reap more than you sow, young Dustin Lang was to receive an eagle in return for his orphan swallows.
Not too bad a deal.
Dr. Jim Scott at the Bird Treatment and Learning Center in Anchorage felt Port Ellsworth would be a splendid new home for this eagle. And so the eagle flew south to Lake Clark on borrowed wings to a new home and some special new neighbors. Dustin Lang is an unusual young man and one of my neighbors too, living just a few miles across the lake. There, he not only cares for lost swallows, but is as efficient and enterprising in watering the plants he sells from their greenhouse as he is competent on the computer he programs for his father's business.
Here's the graph you asked me to do, Dad.
Oh, thank you.
File, down to print. Here it is.
These are not the only activities in which he excels, I later learned, sometimes at my expense. I thought it time to pay a neighborly visit to Dustin's family and help them celebrate the eagle's release.
Could this be the Birdman of Port Allsworth?
In the process, I was privileged to get to know Dustin much better.
Well, I'll show you our cabins.
Over here, huh?
Uh-huh.
These are new, huh?
Yeah, we just built them last year, I think.
Oh. What do you do with your guests here? You take them around and show them the country?
Yeah, I guide them to the falls and take them on hikes to all sorts of different places.
Oh.
Well, here's where you'll be staying.
Dustin proved to be quite an accomplished and helpful host.
Do you know how to use one of these heaters, Jay?
Oh, sure. Where's the wood go?
This runs on oil. Do you need me to set it for you?
What is it, all computerized, for heaven's sakes?
Yeah.
I'll be darned. Yeah, you better set it for me.
Okay. Okay, I'll take you to my fort.
Where's that?
It's right over here. I built it last summer with one of my friends. And
Your fort? What are you fortifying against? Invasion
Nothing.
by what? Aliens or?
My sister.
While we waited for the plane to arrive, Dustin shared his view of the neighborhood with me. Even though I've lived in this area for many years, I enjoyed seeing it anew through young and enthusiastic eyes.
So this is Fort Lyon, huh?
Yeah. 2 window boxes stuck together.
Well, I say.
Here we go.
When you're not holed up in your fort fending off females like your sister Amber, what do you do to keep occupied other than going to school?
I build a lot of things. Last summer I had a candy store, and I pick berries and play with my Legos, all sorts of different stuff. Well, this is a hill up here. It's got a real pretty view of the lake. I sometimes go there, you know, in the summertime when I want to be alone. When I'm up there, I just look around and see how pretty it is and how lucky I am to live out here. It's so pretty.
You are lucky to live out here, aren't you?
Yeah, I really like it.
Ever wish you lived elsewhere?
No.
This is Meditation Mountain up here, huh? You get a pretty good view up here, huh?
Yeah, it's real pretty. I like it. I try throwing rocks down into the water in the summertime.
You can reach it when the lake's up, huh?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, that's a nice spot. You know where I live?
Where?
I live on the other side of the lake.
Oh, really?
See that slash over there on the mountain?
Yeah.
Right at the base of that.
Oh, wow.
You've never been over there, huh? You got to come over and visit sometime. You've been to the big cities. A lot of kids would miss not being able to go to the movies and all the entertainment in town, the video arcades and all that sort of stuff. You don't miss any of that, huh?
Well, every so often, you know, when you get real bored, you miss it. But pretty much, if you just go outside when you're bored and you can just make use of your imagination.
I get bored in town. I don't know what I'd do if I stayed in town all the time.
It's okay to go in, but like I went into town for a long time with my mom. Well, not a long time, it was about 3 days, but that was long for me. And we just got really bored, you know, we got tired of shopping. And it was kind of like, well, what do we do next? Because everything you do there costs money.
Yeah, it does.
Let's see, I'll do this one if you want to do that one.
All right. Bush rats like Dustin and me have no trouble finding ways to keep busy, whether inside or outdoors. But Dustin showed me a new thing or two, sometimes to my considerable embarrassment.
Good grief. What is it? I can't get it on the bottom there. What's the matter? Is this like the old director sets that I had when I was a kid?
No, those are from the late 1800s.
Late 1800s? Wait a minute.
Well, that was when you were a kid, right?
You're giving me something. Whoops! Wait a minute. This doesn't sit on the bottom there.
Is there something wrong?
Did I destroy it? I can't believe it.
What are we
It
going
doesn't
to
seem
do?
to
Your
fit.
fingers are too fat.
What is it? It doesn't
Here,
slip
let me
on the
give you a
end.
hint. Put it on this way. It's easier.
Well, I thought I tried it that way, too.
Dustin tactfully tried to change the subject, but I could read in his eyes he really was pleading, Lego my Lego.
Okay.
Do you know how to play chess, Jay?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, I'm learning.
Ah, finally, thought I. Here's a chance to redeem myself. He's only a kid just learning the game.
Now, wait a minute. Whoops. What am I doing here?
He does that so he can move.
Put him where
so
I
he
want
can
him.
put his queen
Why,
where
of
he
course.
wants it.
You're learning quickly. You watch me and you'll be... Now, this is my king, isn't it? Yeah. I can only move that one step at a time. Yeah.
How long has it been since you played this game?
Oh, 30, 40 years, maybe? Before you were born, I think.
Yeah, quite a while before.
Quite a while, huh? Let me see here now.
Hurry before I forget my plan.
Sorry about that.
I don't want to move him, but I guess I will. Oh, that was my whole plan.
Oh, sorry about that.
Trouble. Checkmate.
Oh, my goodness.
Before Dustin could beat me at every game in the house, I was spared further humiliation upon the arrival of our new neighbor, along with Dustin's correspondent, Linda Simmons.
This must be Dustin. I have a hug for him, too. Hi. Well, we have a beautiful day for this, don't we?
Yeah.
Flying in this morning, I had some feelings about how this bird's going to do here. What do you think? Good home for it?
Yeah, I think it would be nice. There's lots of other bald eagles here, too.
Most of you know that Dustin took some birds in and took care of them, and he did a dandy job, let me tell you. So 3 of those little birds are on the face of this earth, probably, because Dustin cared enough. Now, you probably don't get to release eagles because you care enough about swallows, but we think he's kind of special. So we thought we'd come here today, and we'd let him open the crate. Everybody see? Anyway. Very good. Come on, Guy. Okay. He's home now.
Pretty. Real pretty.
What do you want to be when you grow up? Do you have any firm ideas on that yet, or what?
Yeah, I want to be a doctor.
You do, huh? Not a veterinarian, a doctor?
No, a medical doctor.
I see. Yeah. How long have you wanted to be a doctor?
Well, since the first time my mom asked me, that's what I said, so.
How long ago was that?
When I was 2?
Really?
No, not 2. I couldn't talk then.
I got one. Whoops. There we go.
It's not fair. I was supposed to get that.
Oh, I see. Ah, you can't outdo me at everything.
Oh, that's the one thing you're good at, fishing.
Yeah.
Corky, come. Come on, you guys. In the city, I think I would have missed learning about a lot of the wildlife, how things in nature really act. You notice a lot of different things that a kid in the city wouldn't. And probably if they came out here, you know, they'd notice it too.
It's good to know that love and respect for this corner of the world is sustained in a new generation. Somehow I rest much better knowing that just across the lake, Dustin Lang is keeping careful watch on the neighborhood.
I love to be out before it. Other people are up with the first light. I'm going to appreciate this place every day that I can. There's a world of things to discover here.
Denali National Park can stun you with its spectacular scenery, whether bathed in sunshine or shades of gray. Tourists come by train and bus hoping to glimpse Mount McKinley, the focal point of this great wilderness. I was drawn away from the main tourist attractions to the peaceful solitude of Tom Walker's home. Hi, Tom.
Glad you could make it.
Thank you. Tom is one of Denali Park's most dedicated and passionate chroniclers, as evidenced through both his writing and photography. He's a rare talent and a man I found of strong views about this land of wild beauty he calls home.
1969. I drove in on the old Denali Highway, and I can't even remember what year Ford it was. It may be a 60 Ford pickup truck with about next to zero brakes. Drove in over that old rutted road. We got up in there, and there were literally hundreds of caribou moving through the pass. I remember a female grizzly and her cub right by the road. And the day we were up there, we saw 3 vehicles. And just that experience, that time, whetted my appetite. This is the nature of lambs and small animals. They focus on everything. They're curious about everything. A lot of people say that moose are ugly. They're anything but ugly. They're very beautiful animals. This is the white moose. In the wintertime, it would be great camouflage, but in the summer, it would be quite a disadvantage for the animal.
Why was the park established?
To protect the wildlife. It's a wildlife sanctuary. The original McNeil River, for example, as well as Denali Park, then Mount McKinley Park, were all established by hunters or promoted into establishment by hunters. 1917 was the year that the legislation was signed that established the park. The first chief ranger and then superintendent was Harry Karstens. And Karstens was as tough as nails. He wasn't afraid of anybody. And that's the kind of person they needed to rid the park of poachers and market hunters who were here. And that's what he set about doing.
"75 years of changing seasons have passed since the park was established. Harry would be amazed at the changes. Now, crowded buses frequent park roads, carrying most of the over 600,000 visitors a year who are enthralled by the immensity of a park which encompasses more real estate than found in Massachusetts." Tell me, Tom, in your view, has the park system worked?
Boy, that's a loaded question. Actually, I don't believe it does, because by calling it a park, you automatically draw this immense amount of attention to the place. And when you do that, it draws all this tremendous impact. So maybe it does and maybe it doesn't, but we love these things to death.
Tom agreed to show me some of the wildlife found in his neighborhood. The animals along the road create a lot of interest.
I can't give you an idea how old this moose is, but I would guess around 7 or 8 years old.
Got any idea how many moose in the park area totally?
The estimate that's bandied about is around 3,000. On the west end of the park, there's a rapidly growing moose population in some areas out there, and at this end, at the east end, the population is about half of what it was in the 70s. Last fall, there was quite a large bull in here with several cows.
Thought I smelled one, frankly.
Yeah, when they get in the rut this time of year, they really have a distinctive odor. The bulls and cows will get into the spruce for shelter during the day, and early morning and late evening come out into this birch and willow flat to feed. This is the lake I was talking about, and the bulls and cows come in and feed around the edge in this marshy area. They'll wade out and submarine. You've seen that a lot, I'm sure. There's nothing moving, but with the low ceiling, it's pretty hard to find something like this unless they walked right out near us.
Tom is most at home when he's off the beaten track, where through solitude and contemplation, he can more fully appreciate his remarkable surroundings.
The other day on the road, there was this scene where there must have been 40 photographers. And there was this one moose out in the tundra, and they were elbowing each other aside, trying to set up their camera. And that, to me, is really perverted. To just, is that what it's about, to jostle one another and be in a crowd and yell at people to get a picture of a moose? I don't believe so. And sometimes when I see that, it gives me a little twinge that, you know, I'm a part of that. Just appreciate them for what they are and respect them as an animal, as an equal almost. We're taught as scientists, natural historians, not to anthropomorphize, put our thoughts and feelings on animals. But how do we know what's going on in their mind or their brain? We don't. There's arrogance in the human mind that says when that bear, smelling that flower, all it's doing is looking for food. How do you know that? How do you know that bear isn't just smelling the flower because it smells good? Or how do you know when a ram is on a cliff and it's looking out over the valley like this and there's a rainbow out there, just a beautiful... How do you know that animal isn't appreciating that? This is a lynx in the evening light walking on the shore of Naknek Lake. After sunset, to the south, across the great glacial Carr Valley, a full yellow moon rises above the crenellated summits. For a long time, as the subarctic night settles on the ridge, a ram stands silhouetted against the moon. There's no doubt in my mind that the vast majority of visitors leave here without really appreciating what they see, because as you've discovered, there's not an animal behind every bush. Not every day do you see the mountain. Not every day do you see a vast vista that's gorgeous with color, movement, or light, or whatever. It takes a great deal of time. And one of the saddest statistics I ever saw was that something like 80% of the visitors to Denali spend like one night here. How can you appreciate something like this in one day or one night?
Tom, in today's mobile society, people seldom put down roots, yet you've apparently put down roots in the wilderness and find yourself truly at home here.
It's about commitment to place. I feel that because I live alone, my family, my dad has passed away, my family lives thousands of miles from here. The thing that roots me, gives me stability, is the commitment to place. I travel around Alaska a great deal. Everywhere I go in Alaska, I feel at home. But when I come back here to this particular place, because I spent so much time in it, it's like coming back to my roots or my family. Around 10:30, minutes before sunset, I'm surrounded by rams burning red in alpenglow, seemingly illuminated from fires within. Suddenly, through the opaque mist obscuring the forest, comes a harsh bellow, the crackling of brush, and the rattle of antler against antler as aroused bulls lock in combat. Each time, unbidden, I step closer to the magic.
I left, well assured we can have no more vigilant nor caring steward of this magnificent natural treasure than Tom Walker.
The wildlife experience in Denali today has changed little in 20 years. I cannot see into the future, but I hope the same will be true 20 years from now. Rams will climb the crags, bears will grub the Toklat soapberry patch, and caribou bulls will spar on the ridges above Wonder Lake. I toast this day, the winter solstice, as I look forward to increasing light, not only on the surface of the earth, but in the minds of men and women everywhere.
Many tourists who come to Alaska are modern-day gold seekers, looking for nuggets of excitement and challenge dredged up from an earlier time.
I can get 4 across here. There's one more here. This is a boomtown city of 20,000 gold-crazed stampeders, and I'm going to drive you right through the middle of Skagway in the days of '98.
Today's adventurers discover a motherlode, the old-time Alaskan spirit here in Skagway, where a colorful past lives on in fact and fiction. Almost 100 years ago, during the gold rush of '98, Skagway served as springboard for hordes of stampeders heading into the hills and creeks of the Yukon and Alaska. For most, hopes of striking it rich were crushed under the strain of backbreaking work, and many sought relief and comfort by joining with sympathetic colleagues in rustic saloons such as this one. Of course, much of that has changed now. Gone are most of the old-time bars, which, like this one, the oldest, once propped up the elbows of Soapy Smith, Robert Service, and Rex Beach. Also long gone to their final reward are all those old pioneering gold seekers. Or ahead there. Hi.
Howdy.
Boy, you look like you climbed down off the wall out of one of those old photographs.
So I've been told.
Been around here long?
Oh, on and off. Seems like almost 100 years.
You must know this town pretty well.
Well, fairly well. Some of the things that you see here today, like the buildings, they've changed, though, a lot over the years.
Excuse me, can you tell me where the Unicorn Dress Shop is?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm from out of town, but perhaps Steve here can help you.
Thank you.
Steve must be tourists. Hey, Steve says it's 2 blocks down.
So I'll show you a town that was full of 20,000 people back in a city.
Steve Height is Skagway's Pied Piper into the past, who, through his passion for history, storytelling, and respect for early-day pioneers, can magically lure those who meet him through a doorway into an earlier time. At the turn of the century, Skagway was a thriving city of 20,000 souls. It was gateway to the Klondike Gold Rush, where 100,000 men and women took part in what has been called the last grand adventure.
The image of those people etched in black and white, and they're just frozen there on that cliff of ice. You can almost hear them groaning as they go up this stairway carrying pianos, steamboats, entire dance halls on their backs to make a fortune in the Klondike. Only a few months later, there were aerial tramways and steam railroads to carry that gear. Jay, this is the White Pass and Yukon routes, built in 1898 for the Klondike goldfields. There's a railroad conductor by the name of Larry Sullivan I'd like you to meet. He's got some good old stories.
Oh, great. After you.
No, after you.
All right, sir. Thank you.
The best thing that ever happened to me by chance was that when I came here to eventually get a job working on the railroad here, the White Pass and Yukon Railroad. When I did get on, I got on as a baggage boy. I was 18. Worked as a dispatcher in the dispatch office for a while, and brakeman and conductor. The old-timers that I was working for, the senior conductors, liked to talk about what they knew about it. I just milked everybody for the stories. And the deeper and deeper you got into it, the more you wanted to learn more.
Hi.
You're Jay Hammond, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. You must be Larry the conductor, right?
Yes, I am, sir.
Hey, Steve here tells me you got some great stories, Larry.
Steve who?
He was here a minute ago.
Here about 25 years ago, I was going through the parlor cars, picking up the tickets. There was an old gentleman there, and he had everybody listening to him, and he was pointing his finger out at the trail.
Listening to Larry's stories of the old days while riding this original train, I felt as though I had traveled backward in time.
He told me, he says he knew every kink and curve in that trail yet. It was something that he had never forgotten.
I think that time travel is actually something that's very possible.
And I asked him, I says, was it worth it? He says, yes, it was. And I said,
that can be possible listening to a story from someone who was there and who is passing on in their living words a gift to you to remember this as something that really happened.
Well, Jay, I could tell you a lot of stories all day on this train, but I've got to get going. I got some other work to do, I says.
Okay, Larry. Say, if you see Steve, tell him I'm looking for him.
Steve who?
Oh, there you are.
I wanted to show you the Dead Horse Gulch. It's right up ahead. The Trail of 98 winds down along at the bottom. It's where all the horses were killed the winter of 97, 98. The Dead Horse Gulch is right up ahead, down at the bottom. You could buy a horse on the beach in Skagway for $150. That's when 25 cents would buy you a 3-course meal in any restaurant in Seattle. And you'd load your gear up on your horse, and these weren't horsemen, these were accountants or grocery store clerks or college kids up for a big adventure. And they never packed an animal. They started up the trail. They snapped their legs in the rocks and the boulders along the way. They fell off the narrow parts of the trail into the canyon. Most of them would just leave their partner there to guard the gear and come back down and buy another horse. So the machine, the human drive to get over the pass, ground up 3,000 pack animals the winter of 97, 98. And the bones of those animals are still littered along the bottom of the canyon.
I can't afford a carriage, but you'll look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for two.
After leaving the railroad, Steve kept one hand in the past by resurrecting a business started 69 years ago, the Skagway Streetcar Company.
Here we go, ma'am.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
Gotta help the old folks.
The town is 4 blocks across, it's 22 blocks long, and you see the watch painted on the far side of the mountain? That's an advertisement for Mr. Kermsey's watch repair services from 1915. If you'd had a pocket watch in those days, Mr. Kermsey could fix it. But nowadays, of course, you take your pocket watch in there, they look at you funny and try to sell you a postcard. Here we go. All right. Here we go, Governor. Oh, all right, gotcha. You see, Skagway's written history hasn't really been done yet. The history of the town has been passed on orally by word of mouth from the old-timers down to the younger people willing to listen. I had an incredible opportunity when I first came to Skagway to talk to some of Skagway's oldest citizens. People that were in the community or who lived outside. And when I'd go take a break and go travel down to, say, see my folks in Colorado, I'd swing by and down in Tacoma and talk to Edith Larson, who was 13 years old in August of 97 when she landed on the beach. She said, Steve, we moved into our first real home, a log cabin that my father had built on Thanksgiving Day, 1897. It was a very thankful day. It had been getting mighty cold living in a tent. Can you imagine living in a canvas tent with that north wind screaming down this valley? Because I passed that story on to you, you are only one step removed from the Klondike Gold Rush. And that's what oral history is all about. The feel of the wind on somebody's face or the smell of something cooking on a fire, you'll get the sense of what that person saw. You know, it was a beautiful blue sky day and I wore my red shirt or something like that. Right at the top of the stairs lies buried the outlaw Soapy Smith, shot dead July the 8th, 1898, at the tender age of but 38.
As Steve tells the story of the notorious scoundrel Soapy Smith, and how he met his deserved end at the hands of hometown hero Frank Reed, you'd swear Steve had been a star witness.
Smith had been drinking heavily most of the afternoon, and already he and Reed had some of this bad blood. Reed challenged Smith. There was a scuffle. They had words. Eyewitnesses say that Smith tried to swing at Reed with the butt of his rifle. Shots were exchanged. There's 100 different explanations of how exactly it happened, but one thing that seems to come out of it all is that Reed actually pulled a faulty cartridge into the chamber. No! Reed pulled another time to get another round into the chamber. As he did that, Smith, who now saw death in Reed's eyes, had exactly enough time to slide his Winchester rifle down off his shoulder, both men firing simultaneously. Smith took a round in the heart, was dead before he hit the dock. Frank Reed took a bullet in the groin. He died 12 agonizing days later. He gave his life for the honor of Skagway. Thanks, Frank. Good shooting, old buddy. Good shooting. Jay, I'd like to take you inside this building. This is Jeff Smith's parlor. Soapy's old saloon. This building hasn't been open for a generation.
I'll be darned.
In-house game.
Who are you? Oh, that's all right. Hey, Steve, come on, let's finish that game.
Oh, Jay, you want to come in and join us?
Come on, Jay.
No, I don't think so.
Suit yourself. See you, Jeff.
Okay.
Wow, what's
Oh,
the
you
limit?
tried.
Oh, I did. I don't know. How much do we got?
I don't know.
You see, Jay, history can come alive for those who take the time to listen. So many people hate history. They say, oh, God, I have to take history in school from Mrs. What's-it, you know. Oh, God, this is terrible. My Lord, history is the very fabric of who we are, what we are as a people, as a nation, as a species, our ability to tell the stories and pass on the previous experience. So many, you know, other animals have it imprinted in them, and they pass on, okay, it's time to learn how to fly out of the nest, or it's time to go upstream and spawn, you know. We have to pass that on, and that is the most important thing you can give to, if not your children, then at least to the next generation. I hope that we listen to the old-timers a little more. They've been through it. I enjoy time traveling with the old-timers a lot. All aboard!
Oh, Alaska, I'm coming